Hey everybody, it's Chief Gen X again. I gotta come to you today. I want to share a little family story with you. Um, Something that I thought was pretty humorous. Some of my relatives asked me about this one. I want to share to you something about my grandfather. Now, let me do a background. My grandparents were married before my grandfather passed away for 65 plus years. Okay. Um, by today's standards, that's a modern miracle. Uh, but when they were growing up, that was just part of the course. It was to death do you part. Um, that's what was expected. But it was 65 years of loyal love and dedication, devotion. Now, it all wasn't a bed of roses. It all wasn't a horror story either. It was like anything else around in the world. Some days are good, some days are bad. Um, like anything else around here. Well, nothing was, nobody's impervious to that. My grandparents had their ups and downs, you know, discussions, like everybody else did. Um, it was it was something to behold. It normally didn't get out of the arguments or the conversations didn't normally get heated when there was company. Now, if there wasn't company there, then I can't tell you because I don't know. But it was, from what my mother said, there was some of them were quite heated. So it was. She kind of gave me the impression it was what I would call what World War III. And you say you don't understand. My grandfather was second generation Irish immigrant or third generation Irish immigrant. My grandmother, he snatched her right out of England. He met her and when he was stationed over in England with the 8th Regiment Army Air Corps. Met at a USO club. They got together, blah 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 blah, and one thing led to another. They got married. They had my mother, and came back to the States. The rest is history. Okay, 65 years, married in 1944, I believe it was, early 44. My grandfather passed in 2006. Y'all do the math. Okay. Um, Now, with that said, there's, like you said, good times and bad times. Everybody has them. All right. Everybody had a little relief. My grandfather's was the barn, and what we would commonly and comically call Francis the Red-Nosed Grandfather, or Grandpa, or Purple Nose. I'm sorry, Purple Nosed Grandpa. Francis the Purple Nosed Grandpa. Because, poor man, because whenever he decided he needed a little relief tonic, his nose would turn purple. Now, his relief tonic was the brand called Old Crow. Now, if anybody you remember that, that stuff is about as nasty as it'll kill the taste buds the first shot. It was nasty. I can attest for it, first-hand experience for it, a few times. But that was his relief tonic, and he wasn't a teetotaler. He wasn't somebody who went out and got slammed drunk every night or anything like that. He just come get a couple of snips, a couple of snips of the old bottle and working and on the merry way. Well, when he did that, though, it there was a noticeable. You could tell there was a noticeable change in his features, his facial features. His nose would turn a light purple, just right in there, just right in there, a little bit right in there. But he had a purplish nose, and he always had that little grin on his face, like I don't give a shit grin. Okay, he was He was never a mean drunk. He was never, we didn't see him as a mean drunk. We saw him, I always saw him as a happy, smart, shitty and grin drunk. Happy, not even drunk, happy, feeling good, buzz. Kind of had a buzz on him. Obviously intoxicated, but that's what it was. But he participated, easy for me to say, participated in his own flavor of alcoholic beverages. He used to say, if you're going to do it, get something that's cheap. It's because you're not there for the taste. You're here for the effect. Can't blame him for that one. Okay. My particular taste was back when I was drinking was Jack Daniels. I really didn't. Just say I didn't particularly care for the old crow. Didn't turn it down when it was offered, but I didn't go out and buy my own bottle. Let's just put it that way. Grandpa would come out. Mostly it was in these hot days. You could really tell he was just really working hard. He if you knew it was a long day for him, he stuck in his back pocket and off he went. You didn't see him for the rest of the day until it was lunchtime, and then he'd go back out, and he'd come back in about a half hour, 45 minutes before supper time, and that's just the way he was. He went out working, and he worked until it was time to eat, and then he came back. And that was it. It was, I will say, it was always fun to watch. Him go through his little stories, and you could tell when he was on the influence. He'd get a little lively there. It wasn't too much words when he got older. I guess he had done all that when he was younger, but he talked a lot, but he got a little more animated when he was on the influence. I myself, is the oldest grandchild, I really didn't see this particular, I really didn't pay attention anyway, I should say, to the effects of what happened to him physically. When he had a couple hits the old crow in him, until I was about the age of, I'd say 10, 11, maybe 12 years old, the latest, and then that's when I kind of would see subtle changes and just attitudes in the group when Grandpa would come back in from the shed. First one would see it, wouldn't say anything. It would usually whoever's closest to the door. My grandpa would come to the door. They go, "Hey, Dad, how's it going?" And he go, "Hey, how's it going?" He'd look up and you could see the nose and okay, boom. Everybody knew. Yep, Grandpa had a few. And he'd grin, was it a grin on his face? He wouldn't care. He's like, all right, cool, no big deal. Shit, place, he didn't give a shit. It's just the way he was. But, and then of course, my grandmother would turn around and she'd start to say something like, she'd get about half of his name out, Francis. And then you see this, she'd turn her head, snap her head over there, and she'd get her nose out of it. My mother used to call it getting her nose out of joint. She used to say, "Mom getting her nose out of joint." And I picked up on this stuff later on, going, "Oh, Grandma's pissed about something." So when Grandma had that effect, that's when I kind of, when I had that response, I was like, wait a minute, something's going on right here. Me being the curious one, the old ADD coming in, and I'm like, I gotta know what's going on. I'm just nosy. I gotta be a nosy son of a bitch. I was nosy. Like, what's going on? And I go back, because I was just about as tall as my mom at the time. She was about 5'7". I would go over and I wanted to whisper in her ear, "What's going on?" If she had the chance to, she would drag me outside and she'd tell me real quick, "Hey, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah." She dragged me outside because she knew I would start snickering. I really didn't have any filter then at all. I didn't have any control over, didn't have any voluntary control over the fact that if I heard something funny, I was going to laugh right up back. And then everybody's eyes would be on me real quick. So she dragged me outside. She'd tell me, I was okay. So I started picking up on these little clues. By the time I was 12, 11 years old, start putting little pieces together, and start looking at and wondering why they'd always look at the, everybody came into the house. Normally, my mother was the first one there. She would help out my grandma with the, whatever was left over to cook, start cooking for the Sunday meals on the hill. And then, of course, she'd tell mom and dad, she'd hi, mom and dad, and her grandma and grandpa anyway. She'd walk through the house, see how things were going. And of course, she was just as nosy as the other four were. She'd check and see where she was at on the picture wall, and she'd smile, okay. And she'd walk back in and she goes, okay, mom, what can I do for you? What do you got going on? Blah, blah, blah. Dad, how's it going with brought the oldest one here with me. He can work. And I was more than willing to work. I was working my grandpa all day long. In fact, my biggest thing was trying to keep up with the man. He's 60 plus years older than me, and he can run circles around my ass. He can do that with just about anybody. But but I was always willing to help, so I'd go out there and help him out. Do what he's got to do, and we'd go out there and have a good time. But that's how you knew that Grandpa was. If it was a good day, he always carried it with him. He's going to be a good long day of hard work. He always carried it with him. If it was a bad day and Grandma and Grandpa were getting into it and he really didn't want to listen to it, he'd finally excuse to go out, and he'd get up and go outside. And of course, Grandma would be like, "Where you going?" And he's like, "I'm going to do this. Gotta go fix something in the barn." And off he'd go. Okay. I'd look at my mom. My mom would just give me this look like, "Don't you even open your mouth." Okay, never mind. I'm going to say your word. And that was that. It was either that or they would get into these arguments, and then we knew they've been around long enough, each other long enough to know that some things are better left, just leave it alone, let him go what he gonna do, or let her go along with it, whatever. Let the other one go. It'll come back. Big deal in the ground. My grandpa always told me she'll leave and she'll come back. She'll get tired of walking. She don't know how to drive. That's another story. But and my grandma would always say, he'll come back, he'll get hungry. Nobody cooks like me. And she was right. He'd come back because he got hungry, because he knew nobody could cook the way he liked it, like she did. So he'd come back. So that's how, as a grandchild, that's how, I seen this, as I got older, I got to where I got my driver's license, got my car, I'd come out there and my grandfather during the summertime every once in a while, if I wasn't working or anything, I'd come out there and help him out, and see if he needed some help. Come out, just come out and visit sometimes too. And every once in a great while, my grandpa would say, "Hey, let's go out to the barn. I'm gonna show you something." Okay, no problem. First couple times I had no clue. The first time I had no clue what you talk about. I said, okay, we'll go out there and look at something. He walked in there and he looked around. This place is kind of small, isn't it? I said, "Yeah, it's all right, Grandpa. You got a lot of stuff doing here." He stuck his hand in the hay pile. And he digging around. He goes, "There it is." He pulled it out. This little pint bottle of Black Death. I called it. He was like, "Oh, God." He turns it around. He goes, "Old Crow, want some?" I said, "What the hell?" I could see where it said 90 proof. "Sure. We can tip the bottle. I ain't going nowhere for a while." "All right, sounds good to me." We didn't have glasses. He'd take the top off and rub it on there. Back he'd go. He passed to me and rubbed it off the top. Okay. First time that crap hit my tongue, I thought someone had taken my tongue out and ringed it around my neck about 3 times. It was fucking nasty. It was like liquid shit with a kick. This stuff tastes like crap. However, it was strong enough to where it would burn your taste buds, where you wouldn't taste anything after the first shot. So, didn't care. After the first taste, I was like, ugh. And he's like, "Take another shot. Trust me, after the first one, you don't get any taste buds." I thought he was full of crap. So, all right, I'll try it. And, didn't normally say no to Grandpa. All right, you trust me, Grandpa. You've been around for a while. So I hit it. I didn't taste anything. I got the sting, got the burn, didn't taste anything. Yep, he was right. Taste buds are going. Okay, let's party. So, first time was in the barn with him. We polished off. It was about 3/4 of a bottle. We both polished that little bitty that little pint off. I'm like, Grandpa, you got? He goes, don't worry, son, I got plenty. He sticks his hand in strategic places, pulls out a bottle, pulls out a bottle, pulls out. The man had like 5 bottles of Old Crow. He ain't even tapped yet. And my stomach's doing flip flops. My brain's going, oh hell no. My tongue's going, please God, don't do this to me. So, and I'm like, you ready, huh? So he says, yeah, your grandma can be a pain sometimes. He goes, but God love her. She's still a good woman. Okay. So we're feeling pretty good. The first time around, I remember this because my mom came up the hill and she's asking, she's asking what's going on. And she's just up, just checking on my grandma and checking on grandpa. And excuse me. She was talking to grandma for a while, and she came out to the barn, and she came out to her, she goes, hey, and she knows what dad's at, blah, 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 and grandma's still huffing the puff, and she snorts out, he's in the barn. I look at grandpa. Grandpa looks at me and just grins. What? I'm thinking, we're going to get in trouble. And he's like, what? What's she going to do? She knows where I'm at. She knows what we're doing. He's out there with my grandson. I don't want to know about it. And I get that right. She said, if he's out there with my grandson, I don't want to know about it. I heard that. These big ass ears heard that shit. I was smiling and I said, did she say what I think she said? He goes, yep, she did. I said, you want that bottle again? He goes, yeah, no problem. Get that bottle one more time. About the time I put the bottle down, in walks my mother. Hey, gentlemen, how we doing? She's like, the cough start a little strong, Mr. Son? Yes, ma'am. Sure is. I thought I was dead. I thought I was a freaking corpse. Nope. She's like, Dad, you got any of that nasty shit in there for me? He smiles. He goes, sure, Tricia, you want some? Here. She takes it and she goes, don't say a word to Grandma. He looks at me and goes, you say a word to your grandmother, I'll beat you to death. I ain't saying shit. Because I'm bound, got a buzz on me. I don't care. I'm like, I ain't saying shit. And Mom hit that thing and she's like, oh, that shit's nasty. I looked at Grandpa and I looked at Mom and I said, yeah, but after the first chug, you ain't got no taste buds. And she goes, well, look who's been listening to the grandfather. I'm like, well, he is a smart man. There was a few other instances like that afterwards. Before I went and joined the Navy, him and I would sit down and we'd share a slug or two and some stories. My grandpa was a good man. He fought for his country, served overseas, met my grandmother, brought her back over, and built a family. But it was always a treat watching him come in. Here comes Francis, the purple-nosed grandpa, and my aunts and uncles and my mom used to come Rudolph. Well, here comes Rudolph. That used to set my grandmother up on a tizzy. Well, she could get her nose a lot of whack. Like Mom said, she get her nose out of caught in a bind or out of whack, and she'd be all. And of course, myself, my cousin Deb, and other ones, when we saw this, I was sitting there passing around this knowledge of what's going on. I'm not being stupid. I'm passing the word to my cousins, going, hey, if Grandpa's nose is this, and this. And they're like, wow, how do you know this? I hang out with Grandpa, man. I ain't stupid. I'm gonna hang out with a man. I'm gonna see what's going on. I'd hang out with them, and I'd come back when they came up to visit. When they could make it out to visit, I'd get my cousins all out. This is the deal. Okay, or we passed by and we said, this is the deal, blah blah blah. it was always it was always a fun time with my grandparents, one way or another. It was always, if you were smart enough, or even halfway smart, there's something educational every time. But my grandfather, he was quite a hoot. You know, Francis the purple nosed grandpa that we used to call him that. All of us grandkids used to call him that. Francis the purple nosed grandpa. And when he came in there with that purple nose, and that grin on his face, we would take side bets on how fast Grandma get her nose out of joint. Most times she's just like, ignore it, right? And sometimes if she'd been on one of them twits, it'd be all it. But thought I'd share that story with you. I know my cousins will enjoy it, and all the other ones too. You guys got some things you want to ask me about? Go ahead and just shoot me a text message through TikTok, through Facebook, DM me, whatever. I'm not hard to find. And if you like what you hear, you like what you're seeing, please hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. You know, it's always helps out. Let me know what you want to hear about, what you don't want to hear. What you'd rather not hear about. Just don't be shy. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. And once again, my name's Chief Genetics, and I am out.